He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits. A legendary figure about to encounter a world more treacherous than any he has ever known.
This your first trip to New York?
First trip anywhere.
Well, we might just have to give you one for free.
Yeah. One what?
How are you finding New York?
A bit of a lunatic asylum. That's why I love it, because I fit right in.
When are you coming home, mate?
Well, if you can manage, Walt, I'd like to stay a while.
Wouldn't have anything to do with a certain lady writer, would it?
Paramount Pictures presents Paul Hogan as Crocodile Dundee.
You got a light, buddy?
Yeah, sure, kid.
And your wallet.
Got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Crocodile Dundee.
That's not a podcast. This is a podcast. That's right. Welcome back to the Film Reel Cast. We are back in 1986. And I'm pleased to say I'm back with the beautiful Paul. Paul, how are you?
Oh, sweet. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Good.
And
we've
I
got
am
the
the
lovely
80s man. The 80s man.
You are the 80s man.
Yeah.
And we've got the lovely, silky, dulcet tones of Rav. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Hope you're as well.
It's just unbelievable. Women turn the bass up and just sit on those speakers. We've got Rav back on the podcast. And we're doing something that's really fun, really keen, really to Paul's liking. We tried to choose a film and it kind of went like, Neil, you choose a film, mate, and we'll talk about it. Neil had a nervous breakdown of what film to choose. It was quite difficult. So in the end, we chose Crocodile Dundee, and then Neil and James can't make the podcast in typical style. But we've got Paul, who just loves the 80s. He wears the 80s. He's just... Yeah. You're all about this, mate, aren't you?
I'm sat here in double denim.
Oh,
with a shark tooth necklace.
I'm drinking a can of Lilt at the moment as we speak, and I've got some fluorescent socks on with a headband. So, Rav, were you a child of the 80s, mate?
Child of the late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s. You were more the noughties man, aren't you?
Indeed, yeah. However, I do say 80s music is still the best.
Yes.
Hey.
Good lad.
Something.
You can't argue with that, can you? End of the day,
No.
it's still so good. And we're doing Crocodile Dundee, and this film had such an impact on me, and I just, it brings back so many memories. I've seen it so many times, and it's fascinating, really, because Paul Hogan, he was put on New Faces in Australia way back in the day. When this film was made, it was 47 years old, bearing in mind. So it was put in by John Cornell, one of his mates, just for a laugh, because Hogan's always been the working man's man. And he went on New Faces, which for those who don't know is like a talent show. And this was done by Kevin Wilson, who was a really harsh judge back in those days in Australia. And he was fully aware of what he was getting himself into. And after he did his comedy act, they were going to score him. And the typical dry Hogan way, he turned around and said, "Don't worry about scoring me. I know how good I am," and just walked off the stage. And it was that reaction that made him win the competition. And from there, he got bit parts on various TV shows because he kind of got recognised. And it's amazing because all whilst he was doing this, I never realised, I don't know if you guys did, he was a rigger on in Sydney on the bridge. So he'd spend his day doing TV appearances, or in the evening rather, and during the day he'd be several hundred feet in the air painting and keeping maintenance on, I think it's Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, and he kind of got an appearance on this very kind of, it's like not the 9 o'clock news, kind of satire news show. And again, it was unscripted by him. But because he was just naturally funny, naturally very dry and flirtatious, and back in those days, people were very sexist, and they made kind of racist comments as well, but that was accepted as humour, and he was very good at that. So from there, he got more and more TV parts and ended up with his own Paul Hogan TV show, which was the kind of the Australian equivalent of like the Benny Hill show, you know. And that took off, and he then kind of came to notice more, especially in the UK, with the adverts for Australian holidays, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. It was.
Yeah, and throw shrimp on the barbie and g'day and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Those kind of quotes, which stereotyped kind of Australian. He was well known, very well liked. And him and John Cornell, who wrote a lot of things and who was in a lot of the sketches, said, we'll do these adverts, we'll agree to do them, and we won't get paid. But what we want is high budget adverts with famous people in, really well edited and really well done. And these adverts came out and they were so popular. They got the imagination of the world through Paul Hogan's sense of humour. And it was such a clever idea, because from pitching these adverts, and because Harry became famous through the adverts, he then was able to do Crocodile Dundee, which was a film that he wrote himself. The story was by him. And also John Cornell, who's credited as well. And it became just a massive hit. And he pitched it to the film companies. And what they did, again, it's genius, it's brilliance, was that they took a small percentage, but they were so confident that this film would do so well that they said they'll take a share of the takings as well, which was such a good idea, because it's got on IMDb 8 million, but I've been watching quite a few interviews of Paul Hogan, and it was a $6 million budget to make this film, and it went on to make over 400 million worldwide. It's just unbelievable, and it was filmed in order of the way the story's done. And he was saying, and friends were saying as well, and I interviewed John Cornell, that the kind of romance between Hogan and Linda Kozlowski kind of did blossom, and what you see on screen is kind of literally what happened. And when they got together, because Paul Hogan was such a massive celebrity and loved because of what he did to Australia, he became a figure of hate, and she did as well, when they came out just before Crocodile Dundee 2, of that they were actually getting together, and he was leaving his wife and 3 children. And the press painted pictures of his kids being abandoned, left alone, when in fact his kids were married and lived away and had jobs themselves and families themselves. So, and then he kind of slowly won them back, but he got a brain hemorrhage at the end of this, was in hospital, and it was done for tax evasion, declared that in court secretly, with undisclosed figures. I mean, he had such a ride, but he's made so much money, and he hasn't changed this very day. When you look at interviews, it's absolutely brilliant. It's really fascinating. I'd recommend on YouTube having a look.
Okay.
It's so good. But yeah, he's kind of, when he talks, he's Crocodile Dundee. Just, you know what I mean? He's very lazy, kind of the worries he's got, and he doesn't give a shit about anything. He's just happy-go-lucky kind of character in real life. He appears that way. Very much like you, Paul.
Happy-go-lucky. Yeah, but people are fuckers, aren't they?
People are fuckers.
You can't account for that. Yeah.
Where'd you pull that one from? Really? People are fuckers.
But you and I both know that, Stewie.
Jesus Christ. Rav, when did you come across a Crocodile Dundee early stages? I saw this at the cinema, and obviously being born in the 70s, and I loved it. What about yourself?
I think it was, I remember it was many years ago now. I was at home, and both my mother and I were watching this on TV. That was the first time I came across it, and then after that, he just became an icon of the 80s, and it just kept going. And you know, the catchphrase of "All that knife, this is a knife." That was with
great,
and him.
Oh, it's legendary, isn't it? What about yourself, Paul? I mean, you were born in, you're a 60s child.
Fuck off. Hang on. Don't forget, right? You're like, what, a month older than me?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. You're a September child, I'm October child, so.
Scratch the record. Scratch the record. Go on then.
So yeah, I reckon if I've not seen it in the cinema at the time, I'd have seen it a couple of years later. Because I remember, I remember that scene where he chucks. What does he throw? He throws something. There's someone being mugged
A tin can.
in New York. Yeah, and he chucks a tin can. And I remember being in my local park, throwing a stone, thinking I was Paul Hogan, and it got nowhere near the target. Right. So that was what it must have been like 1989. So I would have seen it around the time it came out, and I loved it.
Throwing stones at random people in the park.
And that's why I'm where I am now. Yeah.
No wonder you had no friends.
It might have been at a tree. It might have been at a friend. It could have been my mum or dad, you know?
The tree was your friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, bless. But yeah, this is kind of, for me, was the first fish out of water kind of film, isn't it? That I remember, as in, kind of he goes to New York and he's lost, and I don't really remember. I can't recall other films doing this as well. I don't know about you guys.
No, there was no one. There was Tarzan, wasn't there, Stu?
George of the Jungle, wasn't it?
Was it George of the Jungle? It might have been, yeah. But it was that. Sorry, Ralph.
Brendan Fraser, yes.
Brendan Fraser, yes. Yeah, you're right. And it was just, and not only was it kind of like in that vein, but also there was that, the way the people in New York perceived the character that Paul Hogan played was just almost like he was, from the jungle,
Yeah.
There was no internet, no social media. This guy came from the outback and came into, middle of New York, and it was just interesting to see how they responded to him and how they dealt with it and how he responded too.
I mean, they loved the film. Was just a huge success in America, and they loved it. But I mean, I know there was you kind of, I don't know what you could class. You got the Coneheads, haven't you? You got Borat coming to America and things like that. Even He-Man, to a certain extent, did kind of this. And the film Enchanted is the only other film that I really enjoy. Enchanted with Rachel McAdams. I think it's very which is a great film. It really is, and they do this just as well as Crocodile Dundee. But I mean, Rav, you're a film man as well. I can't remember any film doing this kind of fish out of water story as well as Crocodile Dundee. I don't know about you, mate.
No, I mean, like Paul said, it was very much Tarzan, but it's the Australian Tarzan, isn't it? Brendan Fraser's George of the Jungle. But other than that, I don't think I've seen anything which, to this degree, where it is fish out of water.
You know what, Stu? In Rav, you couldn't get away with that now, could you? You could not.
No.
They couldn't do it now because of social media and the internet. It wouldn't happen because of the knowledge of what goes on around the world and all that kind of being fed constantly with information from different cultures. It wouldn't happen.
I mean, that being said, I think a 2020X spin on this would be interesting. As you said, it wouldn't get away with it, but to have a character who lives most of their life in the outback or away from technology just to come into the world now, like for example New York, London, whatever big cities there are in the world, it would be an interesting spin on it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think if you did, I don't know, you might be able to scrape it, kind of the outback, the Amazon, something like that, to get away with it. But I don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, there was talk of remaking it, and they had I can't remember his name now, the guy who played Kenny Powers, and because he did a trailer for it, and he was seeing Crocodile Dundee dressed up in his stuff, and people believed that they were doing a complete remake of Crocodile Dundee, but it turned out to be a promotional video, which is kind of a parody of what Paul Hogan did. And in that, they got people, famous people like Thor, Chris Hemsworth, he was in it. And all these famous people were in it. Margot Robbie was in it. And it purely was just an advert, exactly the same as what Crocodile Dundee promoting Australia. but because of the big names, it was a massive spin on the internet that they've remade it, and everyone believed a new film was coming out, and it was so well done. But when you look at the 80s, and again, I love the 80s, and around 1986, and I always love going back and looking at the films because there were so many good films, and when you just pick a year out, and I've always said, if you're stuck on a desert island, you're going to bring 80s music and 80s films. They've got The Three Amigos, The Golden Child, The Fly, Karate Kid 2, in Cobra, Labyrinth, Howard the Duck. I mean, it's just some amazing.
Minus the last one.
Oh no, just so good. I mean, it's nostalgia, isn't it? I know if I watch Howard the Duck now, I'd die. I'd want to stick pins in my eyes. But I mean, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Top Gun.
Oh, superb.
Oh, I love Top Gun.
I was watching that tonight, actually, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think if you've not done it already, I'm not sure if you have, we should do that because Ferris Bueller is just,
it was great.
Just class. Yeah,
it's so good. I think we may have covered Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We'll have to have a look. If not, we'll add that one to our list.
But 86 was a nice little peak in the film, wasn't it? As you say, Stu, it was a nice little peak, and there's a lot of stuff coming out then.
Oh, it's just so good, so good. But on with Crocodile Dundee. I mean, this film was my first introduction to Australia as a young child. I mean, I was 12 years old. All I knew was Star Wars at 12, and that was it. So, and it was my first introduction to a female's bottom, which was very nice, thanks to lovely Linda Kozlowski. Mike Kozlowski. I kept calling her Mike Kozlowski through this. I might just refer to her as Mike Kozlowski from now on, because that's so much easier. Mike Kozlowski's bottom was what I remember. But it's a great intro, isn't it? I mean, poor old Wally, Wally, who do you think's full of more bullshit, Wally or Crocodile Dundee? Which one?
I think Dundee for the. He wants to, obviously, he fancies her and stuff, but Wally's just full of it because he's he's in tourism, isn't he? He's just trying to sell it. So
yeah. What about you, Raph? Who do you think's the biggest bullshitter out of these two?
I would say Dundee, simply because throughout the movie, especially when they're in Australia, you can see bits of, is he a poacher? Is he not a poacher?
Yeah.
And then different lines like that. I think you're BSing. Like Paul said, Wally's the tourist guide, the tour guide. So you're going to, you're going to make more than actually is.
Oh yeah, he tells an amazing story, doesn't he, old Wally? I love the story of when he's talking about Mick Dundee being attacked.
I mean, there he was out there doing a quiet spot of fishing when all of a sudden, bang! This giant crocodile came up, turned him over, bit half his leg off, dragged him down under. Killed it, of course. I mean, any normal man would have just turned up his toes and died. But not our Mick. No. Hundreds of miles, snake-infested swamps, on his hands and knees. He crawled right into Catherine.
Straight past the hospital and into the first pub for a beer. That story's getting better every time you tell it, Wally.
He spins a really good yarn, and then he gets put down by the barmaid just in his peak. And I think that's great. And he is full of absolute bullshit. I like that. But as you said, Crocodile Dundee is as well, because he looks at Wally's watch at one point, gets the time, then looks at the sun, and it says, it's, I don't know, whatever time it is. And he says, an old bushman's craft.
Yeah. But he's obviously doing that for the females' benefit.
Yeah. God, yeah, without a doubt.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
In the bush of Bourne Woods, I don't know.
In the bush.
Yeah.
And that's another conversation, mate, about you being in the bush, honestly.
Yeah, easy.
Jesus. But it's a really good intro with Paul Hogan. And what I do like is the exaggeration on the noise in this film of the punch. when he's dancing with Mike Kozlowski, and that guy's taking a piss out of the poaching. His punch is like a fucking Exocet missile, isn't it?
But I didn't notice at that point, but we know when he's later on and he's punching the pimp.
Yeah.
And the pimp's mates later on in the film. It is literally like a gunshot.
Yeah.
You're right, yeah.
It's so good. It is like Brad Pitt out of Snatch. It's like a one-punch machine. It just... They had such good punch noises in the 80s, honestly.
Yeah.
Not only can we see it, they have to give us the hint and put the punch sound in as well, ultra loud. It's like
talking of sounds, whilst we're on the subject, right? You know, whenever you watch a film now with a knife involved, right? The filmmakers
here we go.
Think,
oh,
right, hang on.
God.
I know we've been here before, right? The filmmakers think we're too fucking dumb to know what a knife looks like. So when the knife is shown on the TV, on the film, whatever, you hear this, don't you? Right? All the fucking time. Like Scream,
Kill
for
Bill.
example. Or, Kill Bill, yeah.
Leave Kill Bill alone. Leave it alone.
No, hang on. Knife comes out like Scream. Like you watch Scream, maybe the first 5 minutes, the knife comes out, and all you hear is the second you hear this. In this film, when he gets the knife out, and we'll come to it later on about that's not a knife, this is a knife, right? And he gets the knife out. We all fucking know what a knife looks like, and it's massive. It does not need that sound. But you know what? If they remade that film, I bet you any minute the Foley guys would put that sound in.
Oh God, you really got a fucking beef about
100%, 100%. I'd put my pension on it.
You put your period on it, mate. That's what you did last week. You put your period on it.
Yeah. I think there's such a fight with that because back in the 80s, they didn't assume people to be dumb. Where nowadays you have to be literally walked through the film. So this is what's happening now.
Yeah. Knife on screen. Sound.
Yeah. Where back in the 80s, like, it's a knife.
Yeah.
You can see the damn thing.
Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah. Oh God. This when they go out on they go out in the bush, as we all like to do, exploring the bush, and and they come across. I mean, this scene with these are all new things. This was really original. When they come across that, I think it's like a massive water buffalo, and he does his old wow wow kind of thing. They fall on the floor. That took a whole day's worth of filming. So obviously that was like tamed cattle, but apparently they're really stubborn creatures and they don't do what they're meant to do. Right. They was there all day, and I reckon that the only reason why it actually ended up going down like that was going down on Paul Hogan was because he was absolutely knackered, and the thing just fucking laid down on the floor in the end.
You know what though? Well, I saw that bit and I looked at it. I thought his aim was to get that water buffalo off the track because they wanted to get through the track.
Yeah, it didn't.
So he didn't actually achieve what he wanted to do because the thing fucking laid down. So where was he going? Nowhere.
But in the end, he got the girl in the end.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean. I remember you tried that with a vicious pit bull, didn't you, Paul?
Yeah.
Your guitar lessons have never been the same since.
Yeah. They call me three string.
Let's not even go there. Yeah. But they go through the bush, and they kind of it's all about the story is that she comes across. She's in Australia anyway, doing these interviews, and comes across a story of someone who crawled through the bush after being attacked by a crocodile. So he goes to the site where he's been attacked, and again, as you said, Rav, is he a poacher? Is he not? Of course he is. There's loads of gun shells by this boat, and even he kind of does a wry smile, raises an eyebrow when she lifts the shells. And he makes up some kind of Australian fish, which is quite vicious. So he's clearly there poaching, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a poacher. Yeah, Rav's right.
Yeah, he's a scoundrel. Not Rav.
Well, you never. He does use his charm, though. I must admit, the way he's portrayed, whether that be him as a person or him as a character, he uses his charm very well in those first opening scenes to Linda's characters to make a fall for him. I can see why as well. So, you know you're not supposed to be doing something, yet you're being caught out. However, you're swinging it now to make it look like you're the innocent party.
Oh, definitely. You can see that chemistry, be it real chemistry between them or kind of acting on screen. I mean, she had nothing before this. She went to Juilliard School of Performing Arts, which is a very good school in America. And she took the part having no idea of exactly what it involved. There was no huts. There was tents that had guards out on night with rifles to keep different animals away. And apparently a lot of people got ill because they were in the middle of the bush filming, and she absolutely hated it. But obviously the payoff for that is she ended up with a guy that she fell in love with, and she obviously ended up with shitloads of money in her pocket. But
Juilliard's where Christopher Reeve and Robin Williams went to. They studied there.
Oh really? I thought they went.
Juilliard.
I thought it was Fame School with Coco.
Oh, Stu.
It's another great film, another great series, Fame. I remember watching
It was
Fame.
I remember.
Oh, I
Fame,
loved it.
Was it every Friday or Saturday it was on?
I can't remember, but it was so good, Fame. I just loved it. It was brilliant. But I like musicals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, never mind. When they're in the bush, when he's talking to her about what's going on, and when that snake arrives, and he just doesn't break any conversation, and he just grabs that snake by the neck and just breaks his neck and just carries on talking. It's clearly a rubber snake. It's obvious it is.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny. And again, back in 1986, I was blown away as a kid that this guy is invincible, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He gives off such a good persona. And I did wonder if something extra was going to happen. And it did start to get a bit stale, but I love his attitude of when the hunters come along with his kangaroos.
Yes.
And he even said during, was it Kill Bill? I'm not too sure when we spoke about hunting. Actually, it was during our Caliber podcast, wasn't it? That we were talking about our likes and dislikes of hunting. It's such an original take on what he does when these guys are hunting the kangaroos. From going from, they're hunting kangaroos, so what? There's no law against it, so I'm not prepared to stop them. To what she does to him, obviously changes his mind. And it's such a great scene, isn't it? I always laugh when I see this scene.
Shut up, Lex. Hey, Trevor, get the spotlight over here, mate. Hey? The spotlight! I have to say where you're aiming. Shut up! Not on me, you silly bugger, on the bushes. Hey, look at this big cheeky bugger. Right, got a gun!
It's just the way we always say animals don't shoot back and they shouldn't be hunted. And the fact he does turn the tables, getting the skin of a kangaroo with a rifle, and just the expression on the geezer's face is priceless.
He starts taking pot shots. It's great.
Yeah, I was expecting more from that scene. It's like something more is going to happen here, but it didn't come to fruition. It's like, okay. However, the little quip at the end, well done, Skippy, or something along those lines. Like, okay, fair enough. You can take that one.
What would you like to have seen, Rav? What would have been your ultimate?
I was expecting potentially a bit more of a more guns going off, them firing back and then realizing that they can't kill Skippy, and then Dane being spooked. But then again, that was just me. This is more due to the fact that we've been watching movies for God knows how long now, so I was expecting a retort, but there was no retort.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you would have liked to have seen Skippy massacre one of them, and just more blood and violence and stuff like that.
However, that being said, there's no blood and violence in this movie. I just realised.
No, it's a 15 as well. I don't know why this film's a 15.
Yeah, it's true. Like, he shoots the gun out. He shoots one of the poacher's guns, and then he shoots the light and then the windscreen.
Mm.
But no one actually physically gets hurt in this movie. Except
But the punches are very explosive. That's about it.
Punches.
But do you think it's because of Mike Wazowski's bottom in this that they've made it a 15? Because I can't think of any other reason of why they've done that.
And the no blood, which we're all fans of.
It's weird because there's no swearing.
No.
I say there's no blood, and there's really the only thing you can attribute is maybe like her bum in it, and the crocodile. The scene when she goes down by the lake is quite a famous, like, iconic scene in this. That she is a very attractive woman, and she goes down and she's got this G-string on. She looks absolutely amazing, incredibly sexy, and she's being followed by Paul Hogan because she's kind of challenged him that she's a city girl and she can look after herself. He goes, "Go on your way then." So she goes off and she gets a drink. And isn't it funny that she's in the middle of the jungle or the bush, and she's on her own, but despite being on her own, she gets all sensual down by this river or this pond and starts to take her clothes off and stretch in a very erotic way with no one else there.
Apart from a croc. It's just so corny, isn't it? It's just so predictable. Knowing that there are crocs in the flipping lagoons or rivers, and she's got this canteen round her neck. And yeah, it was yeah. I think I can't see, apart from that, I can't see how it would be a 15. And I think if it was redone, I think it'd be reclassified, maybe 12 APG, because it's nothing, is it really?
No. And obviously it was a PG when it came out because I saw this at the cinema.
Mm.
So I don't know whether it's so kind of soft now that they've bumped it up to a 15, but it's really, really strange. But obviously it's not a real crocodile, and the crocodile gets killed. And I think that's the first kind of connection that they have, that things are going to get serious between them guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think this scene slightly annoyed me because prior, when he's going on about how he managed to escape the croc when the croc took a nibble out of him, and then as he tried to bite down again, and then he goes on the whole thing of what the croc will do is it'll take you into the water and then it'll do a death roll. I was fully expecting something along those lines to happen, but it was just a tug of war. I mean, let's face it, a croc versus a human, the power that an animal like that has, it will drag you. Unquestionably, you're pretty much done. But it was just a bit of a toing and froing. It's like, right.
Yeah, you're right.
Did you want to see her get dragged under and then go in after her?
Well, yeah, that would be more interesting. But again, as you say, it was PG initially, so...
You're quite vicious, Rav, aren't you, really? You want to see the kangaroos attack them and murder the people, and you want to see her death rolled numerous times by a crocodile.
No, what Rav wants to see is it justifying itself for a 15.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. It's more like that. It will add a bit more tension to the scene.
Yeah.
Let's face it, he just jumps on the croc's head and stabs it. So I was expecting a bit more... Right. He is a poacher. Let's face it. Spade a spade. He's a poacher. And the croc's dragging her away, and then he heroically jumps in to finish the croc off, whether that be underwater or above water, because the first scene is him when you introduce the Crocodile Dundee is him in a bar wrestling a crocodile, and she is absolutely petrified.
Yeah.
I was expecting a bit more like that, wrestling the damn thing.
Yeah, no, it would have been a bit more. I don't know. I suppose back in those times, it did make you jump when it comes out of the water, and it was quite original. And I suppose him fighting, or he didn't even actually fight with it, did he? To be honest, he just stuck a knife in his head. And I swear, initially when it first came out, you actually did see him sticking the knife in the crocodile's head, but they've cut that bit out of this. You don't see it as graphic. You do when he twists it, you actually see him in the original film sticking it in his head and twisting it more. But yeah, it's difficult to see why they warrant this being a 15. But I don't know. I'd love to know. And the kind of relationship goes on, and he's really good for a 47-year-old guy. He's got a very good body, and he looks very good. I mean, he was riddled with skin cancer later on in his life, and even admits that it was just due to films like this where he was constantly at the sun all day. that it was riddled with it. But when they're by that lake, they kiss for the first time, and it's kind of a bit. It's lovely because she is really nice, and it's nice, like kind of love story. And he comes across as a very simple guy, but I would have liked to have them not to have kissed just yet, to have waited a bit longer. To, you know what I mean? I think it was
for the tension build up
too soon. Yeah, for the tension, I would like something to have happened a bit later on than to have kissed. I know that she's kind of, I suppose, at her weakest because he's saved her life from a crocodile.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd like to have happened a bit much kind of later on in the film, I think.
Also, from the outset of the film, you know that she's got a boyfriend, but you've never really established. They didn't establish the strength of that relationship, did they? Really, you knew he existed, but you didn't really know. So it wasn't as if you had any kind of. I didn't have any kind of affiliation with her boyfriend, but you knew that she had a boyfriend back home, didn't you? He worked for the paper. Richard, is it Richard?
Richard,
yeah. But it was nice. It was nice. But you're right, Stu. I think it was a little bit too early. And I think it's one of these films they try to squeeze an awful lot in the time they did. Within that film. But yeah.
Yeah, because it's only an hour and 37 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, an awful lot in, and as we get to the end, you've got a lot going on in the to bring everything to fruition in the last probably 5 minutes.
I mean, you would have liked to have seen a fight, Rav. I would take it, some violence.
I mean, like Paul said, they did put a lot in for the first 3/4 of the movie. And there's a very quick wrap up, and I mean, ultimately, this is just a romance story. There is no, I didn't see this as an action movie or anything like that. It was just a romance movie. That's all it was.
That's really interesting you say that, because I was going to ask that question later on, and I'll ask. I'll do it now as you brought it up. I mean, do you think, Paul? I mean, do you think this is an action, or do you think this is a romance, or both? What's your take on this?
I would say. So, what are the options? Romance,
good, bad, or
the
not?
ugly. No. Romance, action,
or do you think it's an
one?
action? It was. Do you think this is a romance? Do you think it's an action, or do you think you're a fucking idiot?
I think the latter. You're a fucking idiot.
You want a latte?
I think it's 100% a romance film. However, it had an element of it had to meet different criteria in order to get the largest amount or greatest amount of viewers to appreciate it. So 100% romance, but you needed a bit of violence. You needed a bit of suspense.
Would you say it's adventure then instead?
No, romance.
Yeah, but a romance and adventure rather than romance and action.
With adventure, but it is from the outset. Two people meet and they find love, and they're together. Romance, but with adventure and a bit of action in between.
So you just. I'm struggling to hear what you're saying from all that fence up there, mate. Can you just get off the fence and just answer the question?
Listen, I told you it was a romance film, but it's got elements of action and adventure in between. For fuck's sake. Come over here.
Yeah, I agree with Rav. I just think it's a romance, but with some action and adventure in as well.
That's what I just said.
Isn't it nice?
Do you want to create a romance? We want an action. So you can have romance, action, or adventure. What would you like? All three of us. Yes. Yeah.
I'd like to see Paul at a fucking sweet shop or something like that, or an ice cream parlour. I'll have chocolate with some mint, and he's not Alan Partridge, isn't he? He goes, I'll have a gin with some tonic and with some ice. So you want a gin and tonic? Well, go on then. Just what you're like.
I just told you, it's a romance film. I said 100% romance film, but it's got elements of action and adventure in it.
Nice.
Get the back of my hand.
Isn't it, as I was trying to say earlier, isn't it nice but sad at the same time when you see in these 80s films the Twin Towers in there? It always
I know. Yeah, I know.
makes you think.
Know. Yeah.
It kind of dates a
film.
film.
Yeah.
Immediately date a film, but it's so sad. But yeah, it's so iconic still. It's like Concorde. Every time you see Concorde, for those who don't know Concorde, it's a plane that flew really fast. But no longer does, because they made the wise decision that something that works really well and flies really well and is commercial success to take out of action. So, a bit like my love life. So, I hope my wife doesn't listen to this podcast. If I'm not on next week, you know that she does.
Hang on, I'm just going to give her a call.
So they land in New York, and once they land there, it's like New York trope city, isn't it? You meet Richard, who is instantly, they kind of may as well have a sign over his head. I'm a sleazy asshole, man. He's punching as well, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely punching. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a proper scumbag.
And it's can I just say, just very quickly, right? If you watch The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox, back to back with this. And the minute he hits New York, whether it's Michael J. Fox or Paul Hogan in this, they've got the drum machine cycled, and they've got that like very fast kind of, is it David Forrester that did all the music to that kind of
in
the 80s.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Just to show just to show the drive and the mechanism of New York and how fast it was. The pace it was running at. So yeah, when you watch both films, the minute they hit New York, you haven't got to see the film. Just you can close your eyes and listen to the music, and you know you're in New York. But it's very well done. Yeah.
Oh, it's really, really well done. You instantly get the fish out of water kind of taste of when the escalators are going, but he doesn't want to go on the escalators. He's worried about him being kind of sucked under the escalators and stuff like that. And Richard finds all of this really, really amusing, and I was really pleased to see Sergeant Powell from Die Hard as the limo driver.
Yes, it was. I was trying to place him.
It was so good. I just wanted him to shout out, "When Nakatomi Plaza, they're turning my car into Swiss cheese." I just really wanted him to say that. It would have been so good, and drive his limo into like one of those massive drains. It would have been excellent, but. Yeah, it's great to see him. And I like the fact that it's really, really nice, really endearing that he just wants to stop at some traffic lights. He says to this geezer outside like the financial district, he introduces himself and says, "Yeah, I might see you around." Just the naivety that chances are in this city with millions of people that I'll bump into you. And it's like the immediate impact he makes. And they kind of highlight and exaggerate that when everyone who's waiting by those traffic lights looks down where Crocodile Dundee was.
G'day. Mick Dundee from Australia. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I think from good. This guy in town for a couple of days. Probably see you around.
Fine.
Went from I don't know.
Yeah, I think at that point it's a bit. Yeah, it's for the benefit of the film. I can see why they've done that, but
it's cheesy as fuck.
It's already been established though, guys, that he knows there's 7 million people living in the city, and he must be stupidly naive to then go, "All right, I'm Mick Dundee from they're like, he knows there's 7 million people. He's never going to see him again." So for the benefit of the film, that was just.
Well, it's just done tongue in cheek. Maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but yeah, I suppose.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's maybe. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you are right. He's either got to be some kind of fucking idiot, or he's just a happy-go-lucky chap, and that's the way they're trying to sell him. He's so different, the polar opposite to what everyone's like in New York, who haven't got time for anyone. And just interested in their own affairs, pretty much like London and like everyone is today, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a question for you then. Is that the guy he spoke to? Is he a director or something? Because let's face it, most movies, when they have scenes like that, they're just cameo scenes for either a director or a producer or whoever it's going to be. Is he
I'm
no?
not sure. No, I'm pretty sure it's not John Cornell, his mate, because he liked to be out of the limelight, and I mean, because later on in his life he got Parkinson's like quite badly, and he didn't want to be known at the time as the Parkinson's guy, and he kind of refers to Michael J. Fox being known more as that than the guy who was in Back to the Future, and he's kind of as famous in Australia for that reason. So I don't think it was him. But you're right. You often get weird cameos, don't you, like that?
So you must be something famous or a producer or something like that. Because why would they emphasize the camera on him more? Sure, they're driving away. Maybe just maybe
because he was a fugly guy.
Yeah.
Bidets, talk to me. Who's got one? Who's used one?
Got
you
one
have,
in Italy.
Because you're a snobby fucker, aren't you?
In Italy, we've got one. But we've not got one here.
Have you used it in Italy? Talk to me about your bidet experience.
Yeah, I've used it in Italy. Yeah, I've used it.
Do you always use it if you do a massive crap, or do you just, or do you use it just all the time anyway?
If it's really bad, I get someone in.
So, I've never used one. What's it like to use a bidet?
What's it like? Just refreshing.
On the whole, what's it like?
Boom!
What's a bidet like on the whole? Talk to me.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Refreshing, I think. Yeah. Cooling.
Does it do the job?
Boom!
Because I honestly don't know. Do you wipe and then use the bidet, or use the bidet instead of wiping?
You do both. Have you never used one? You must have been at a hotel or something that you used one.
No, I just wipe my ass like most of the population do. I don't need some hot water pressurized on my sphincter. But if you wipe after using it, toilet paper will just break up, surely.
Or you just dump it in the. Yeah.
Dump it in what? Are you talking about?
Is this the forum for this?
It is, because I want to know, and I'm sure other people listening. I mean, we had 48,000 downloads last month, and I'm sure, even if you take 10%, 10% of them surely must want to know about your use of a bidet and if it's good or not, in case they go to a hotel or other places where a bidet is available, and they can sit and think, Paul says it's worth it. I'm going to take his vote for it, and I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to use it. Is a bidet worth it?
It's worth. Is it worth it? It's different. I'd say it's different. It's different. Wipe and wash.
Wipe and wash. Rav, bidet, talk to me. Have you used one?
No, never.
Rav's like, I'm dialing out.
Would you use one, Rav?
Why not? It's a different experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'd use one, because I'd be frightened that I'd enjoy it for the wrong reason. So I don't know. Then I'd have to get like a squeezy bottle at home and make my own one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would worry me.
I can see you on it with your phone, and then dialing some helpline afterwards, going, "My name's Stuart."
I'll be on TikTok and stuff like that. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Hi, my name's Stuart.
I like big days.
Idiot.
I'm on 3 a day now. But he obviously didn't know what a bidet was, and I quite like that. At that time, I didn't have a clue. At 12-year-old, I just thought, wow, they've got 2 toilets. What on earth is that for? And why does one of them squirt up? It meant nothing to me, and it's quite. I mean, it's outdated now, but it still makes me chuckle. The conversation where he doesn't know what one's for.
Some nitwits put 2 dunnies in here.
1 dunny, 1 bidet.
Bidet?
It's for, after you know. You figure it out.
for washing your backside, right?
I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
So I looked at it.
I didn't know when I first watched it. I was like, I got no clue what this is. Why do they have? Oh, exactly like him. Why have they got 2 toilets there? It makes no sense.
Yeah. I know, it's weird, isn't it?
You can see him scratching his head, and he works it out.
I still don't know why you need one, though.
Oh, can we just move on from the bidets?
It's just weird. But we go on to a scene that myself and Paul have spoken about. We've been out when we're working, reenacted this scene many a times out of pure stupidity. I think it was pretty much every day. And I'm referring to the restaurant scene of when, and this is where you really see Richard turning into a fucking complete arsehole, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
He decides to just belittle. He's in Richard's playground now, Richard's rules. And he uses that trying to just make Paul Hogan feel so small. And I think that there isn't a better way that I could think of in this, unless he kind of slaps Linda Mike Wazowski around the face. That he goes through the menu, he speaks Italian, he does it just to embarrass and try and empower himself. And as soon as she brings up the fact that they were cooking on their own in the outback and had some yams and some really nice food, that's when he says to him, like, you order. And it's just, this whole scene is done brilliantly, isn't it? I couldn't think of a more simple, better way to do this.
Perhaps I should order for all of us, all right? I mean, I don't imagine that they have any kangaroo steak or possum grits.
Oh, don't worry about Mick. You can make a gourmet meal out of just about anything, even medium rare goannas.
It's great, wasn't it? Eh? And what about the yams?
Oh, yeah. They were great.
Well, that's wonderful. Sure. As he's our guest, perhaps he'd like to order for all of us.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll do that.
I don't know what you call it, but I like to look at that dish up there the big fat shell is eating.
Richard.
Very true. They made the way that's written out. It made Richard look like the enemy, and it was very well done because you can see the actor. I can't remember who plays him, but you can see he's done very well to act the part of a sleazy, like almost like a corporate banker type character who's an arsehole.
Yeah, it's Mark Blum. Yeah, Mark Blum's the actor, and yeah, you're right, Rab. Spot on. You don't need any other dialogue. He looks smug, and he is smug.
And all through this, she's still holding his hand. So despite the fact that she's squirming, knowing that Richard's absolutely ruining Crocodile Dundee, she's still holding his hand. Looking at her, you know that she doesn't want to, and knowing that, you know, she's not happy with the situation and how he's treating him, how he's treating Crocodile Dundee, she's still doing it. And then he deals with it himself, doesn't he?
Oh, he does, and the way he deals with it, and the sound of the punch. I love it. It's just, I'm just interested in. Well, I can't remember what it says now, but it's just the punch sound is brilliant, and the fact he goes so limp. I mean, it's just a fucking shot out of nowhere, isn't it?
It's great. Yeah, he hit him so really covertly. I think he said, he said, "Is that what's the pasta the fat girl's got over there?" And they all look over there, and he's like,
I wish I could do this, you know.
Yeah,
it's so good. Just knock someone out just with one punch.
And again, but as you say, he goes limp, and he's just he looks at him and he smiles. You know, it's that tiny little smile on his face, and then he just goes down again, like.
It's like he's been bloody roofied or something, isn't it? And he slumps in his chair, and then even in the cab, he's completely out of it later on, isn't he?
Until he says he needs to be sick. Yeah, and she's just like, "Oh, fucking hell, he's with me." Like, oh.
Yeah, this guy. And I love that taxi driver they get. He's such a weird little, like, Joe Pasquale kind of character, isn't he?
With his little peak cap. Yeah.
Oh God, it's so good. And what they go to a bar, don't they? Because he's a bit pissed off with the way the evening's gone, and he's in trouble because she obviously realizes that. And I don't really understand why she's pissed off with Crocodile Dundee, because even she was so aware that Richard was being a dick.
I guess
it's kind of annoying in a certain way.
Yeah, I think it's more the fact that it's the way. She probably thinks it's now because it's New York. It's it's a different culture. It's not your culture. I.e., they were getting into pub fights, weren't they, in the outback pubs in Australia? But over here, it's a bit more civilized type. Again, fish out of water. It's a whole massive role reversal, isn't it? This is what you did there. You can't do that here now. You have to be a bit more sensible and clued on, because my status is at risk. Richard's status is at risk. So that's probably what I'm thinking anyway.
Yeah, I didn't know whether she was annoyed with like Richard being a dick, or she was annoyed with herself being with Richard, who's a dick, or with Crocodile Dundee. I didn't know which one it was, or maybe a bit of each of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell. I'd say, especially because again, as you said, they're both being dicks. And she's probably caught in the middle, and she's probably more frustrated than anything else, I would say.
Yeah, you're probably right, mate. And they do go to a bar after that with the taxi driver, and I love the facts of wildlife and nature that he's coming out with about things in Australia.
But the funnel web spider can kill a man in 8 seconds just by looking at him. Of course, the real danger down there is the sharks, though. The big ones, like Jaws. I caught one down there about 3 weeks ago. Cut it open. You know what we found inside it? 3 Filipino fishermen. Still in their boat.
And it's complete bullshit, and it really reminds me of something that you'd say, Paul, honestly.
What? Go on.
Well, he's talking about the black widows and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. What would I say that, though? What would I say that?
Because you're full of shit.
Are you calling me two sheds? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Because there was someone. I used to work with somebody we used to call two sheds. That like, if you had one shed, you had 2 of them. But you could see off the back of what we said about the black widow, it said, "Oh, you can talk about your whatever it was, your spider there." But like over in Australia, it would, But yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I did have a little chuckle of that. And you get, again, which was new. I didn't understand this when I was younger. You got the transvestite there who, I've been 12 years old. I was in the same kind of camp as Paul Hogan was, as in, didn't understand it. But because she's quite convincing male dressed up as a female. And at 12, you just don't know. And when he tells Paul Hogan that that's a guy, I got to admit, I was as shocked and in disbelief as Paul Hogan was, because it's convincing. But I mean, he walks up to him and you don't see it, but he must grab the guy by the nuts to check kind of what he's got, what he's holding under there. And again, that dates the film, because you just simply could not do that, could you, these days?
No, you couldn't. No.
I'll be screaming that this is sexist, this is all that.
I think it's amazing how times have changed, a lot of it for the good. But this was the kind of humour that Paul Hogan was doing on his own show, that obviously got him famous and quite acceptable. And being written by Paul Hogan, you can understand why he's doing these kind of jokes. And we get onto the other scene outside with the prostitutes. And I think it was you, Paul, who said about this punch. Again, it's like an Exocet missile when this pimp comes over and he's talking to the 2 girls. And he's not interested really in any sex. He doesn't really understand the idea of prostitution. And the guy comes over, gives it all the large. Jesus, the noise they make from that punch. He's lucky he didn't take the guy's head off.
I rewound that bit. So the girls, I think they acknowledged that they've seen him in the paper. When they're knocked off their heads on crack and heroin. But they were
crystal meth, yeah.
Right, crystal meth, yeah. Right. But they see him, they pay, oh, you're the guy from, and he's like, yeah. And they said, oh, well, we might have to give you one for free. And he's like, one what? And this guy comes over, like, he goes, are you girls working or what? And he's like, come on, mate. I'm just making some ground with these girls, and you're interrupting and whatever. Not realizing that he's the pimp, and just lays one in, and it is like an explosion in his face.
Oh, it is an express train, isn't it?
Yeah, you expect to see his eyes on the other side of his head, but yeah, I wonder whether that was intentional, because at the same time they're doing films, the firms are making films with all kinds of assaults on and punches and stuff, and why would they choose to do something to have a sound that was over the top? I don't know.
That's friggin' awesome, isn't it? But what I'd love for once in a film, just to be different, is just this scene, for instance, that he goes outside of two prostitutes. These two women aren't bad-looking women. They've got white teeth. Their skin's good. They look nice and healthy. Their hair's clean. Wouldn't it be original if they had two proper crack whores walk up who are skinny, veiny arms, pinpricks, their hair's falling out.
You say veiny arms, you mean lots of holes with no veins.
Yeah, they look like the Walking Dead, but they still give it the really sexy, dirty talk and the smiles, even though they're about 3 steps away from being corpses.
Yeah, with teeth like something you'd expect from Dickens' London. Dickensian London. Oh, my love.
It would be so original, wouldn't it? Do you want some business?
Some business.
It's so good.
Yeah, and he'd be like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, Jesus. That would be great rather than to get this. At least it would be a realistic twist.
Yeah. I need some good. Yeah. Slapping their elbows on the inside. No.
And then they go to like a party, and again it's 80s music, and I love seeing people doing 80s dancing. It's so good.
They opened that scene with Mental as Anything. That was great. That's a great song.
Is that the song they're playing?
No, it was the act was Mental as Anything. I'm just trying to think of the song.
Because it's like that. I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to do it any justice. But I know the song that it's that's playing, and it's quite funny. And again, tell me, because I still get confused even to this very day. Live It Up. That's it. Yes. Great song. Really good song.
Yeah.
That they go to this party. It's kind of very 80s. People have got their sleeves rolled up and their jackets, and it's just massive shoulder pads. And the host of the party, again, Paul Hogan is unsure of what gender they are. Yeah. And he does reach down and check for himself. Is that a male? Is it a female?
I thought it was a male. Sorry, Rav.
I thought it was a male, yeah, like you said, male.
Yeah. But then there's no response, and the person says, oh, I might have to go to...
Oh, it's brilliant response. It's such a funny scene. It really, it's great. After the reaction of surprise, instant pleasure of what's actually happened. But I still don't know what sex that person is, because talk's very high pitched to start with, and after the grope, the voice goes very deep. I don't know whether that's because of the grope or not. I just don't know.
I don't know. No.
Plus, it's her reactions. Oh yeah, because he's Australian. Like, that justifies it.
Yeah. But I'm glad. I'm just so pleased you don't know.
But again, it just shows the lack of our awareness, or I say Western. Like it shows the lack of their awareness in America of like how Australians potentially, or greeted people, because we know they don't greet like that, because we've all seen Neighbours, Home and Away, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And everything else. But back in the 80s, there must have been this complete lack of awareness, because they're like, oh, if that's how they greet in Australia, I'll have to go there,
Yeah. And it was because Paul Hogan was, as I say, he was a rigger. He was the everyman, like, and then he became famous and rich, and he had his family, and he was a real family guy. So everyone could kind of relate to Paul Hogan. And in this film, I mean, off the back of this, unbelievably, he actually introduced the Oscars the following year. It was that much of a success.
Wow.
And he did it kind of, he was like one of the first kind of like foreigners to do that. And he did it without an auto cue. He didn't have a script. And Dustin Hoffman followed him around and introduced him to everyone else. And then one of the first things he said was, this guy does his acting without any scripts. And he couldn't believe that Paul Hogan did that. It was so unique.
That's a talent.
I mean, it's a real talent. And even Paul Hogan would admit that he's like a one-trick pony, but he's very good at what he does. So he's kind of carried on his humour. So it doesn't surprise me entirely that he does do this to people to check what sex they are, because it's his humour, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, this is his film, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But it does kind of, when we've only got 20 minutes after this scene, and we go to probably the most iconic scene that I can think of in this film, and any of his films he's done, with the knife, when he's walking down and he gets approached by that young kid who comes across as very polite. Have you got a time, or have you got a light? The usual line they use, and then give me your money, and he's got a knife. I mean, what a scene. It's so simple. The dialogue is so short.
You got a light, buddy?
Yeah, sure, kid. There you go.
And your wallet.
Mick, give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
And it just works so well, doesn't it?
The best bit about that scene was, apart from the kid being dressed like Michael Jackson, was
it's so true.
It's just because Paul Hogan's with the girl, isn't he? And she is shit scared, and the way he looks and berates his kid just by his laugh. He just kind of like chuckles at this kid, and he's like, "That's not a knife, right?" And then slowly, it's like, I think his timing is perfect in that, because he doesn't react immediately. He just takes it in his stride, and then just goes to his back and pulls his knife out, you know, in his own time. And then you see the reaction of the kid and the two other kids behind him. And I think it's just, the comedy is just perfectly timed. And his reaction to that kid is perfectly timed.
No, I completely agree. As you say, there's no knife noises as well, really, is there?
No, because now they would, didn't they? They would be now.
Easy catching or shooting fish in a barrel. It really is.
Oh, yeah. Even Tintin Quarantino would have a flipping knife sound in there, wouldn't he?
But even she says after this that I always feel safe when I'm with you, and how corny that sounds. And their relationship really, or their love affair, is just fully cemented at this part, isn't it?
You knew where that was going. When she said that, you knew where that was leading.
Yeah. It's a nice dopey line. I have to say, I really like it. And you know that Richard can sense, he must sense a change in her. We don't see it on screen, but it's after this that they then go to Richard Dad's house, and we don't realise that he's got planned that he's going to propose to her. And he's such a slimy snake the way he does it. He's such an arse kisser, isn't he?
Yeah, it's her dad's house, isn't it?
Yeah.
Her dad's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a fucking, he's an arse.
But he is.
Where he charms the dogs.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. That is so good, isn't it?
I have tried it with my dog, my cousin. So it hasn't worked.
I try it with mine. I just end up licking my hand anyway, because I think I've got food in it. It really doesn't work.
Oh, Stu, you've got to tell the story about your McDonald's or Burger King, whenever it was.
Yeah.
I want everyone to hear that.
They had a triple Big Mac burger, or a double Big Mac burger, and it was legendary. It was massive, and everyone in the family had one. They said how good it was. And the wife and the kids were out, and they came back and they said, "I've got a treat for you. I got a Big Mac." Like a big double Big Mac. I was so chuffed. I was so pleased. And I sat there, I opened the box slowly, and this thing was huge. And man, I love McDonald's. And I just had it. And for some reason, the dog knocked the box, and the Big Mac fell on the floor in front of me. And bang! Both dogs destroyed this Big Mac in seconds. And everyone just looked at me, and the look on my face, it must have been like a little kid who just dropped their ice cream on the floor. I was so upset. And everyone got so much pleasure, including Paul, when I tell that story.
I've heard that story 20 times. It's still funny.
It's the worst moment in my life, you know. And I never got to have a fucking Big Mac like that. Never, ever.
I'll buy
it was
you one,
limited. Bastards, honestly.
I'll buy you one next week.
Oh, you're so kind. You know I'm on a diet, you git. But yeah, thanks for bringing those memories up. I'll go back to therapy again. But yeah, he does kind of propose to her, and he does it in a way that she can't get out of it, because the dad's got the backing, because he doesn't realise what a slimy bastard he is, and they've got all friends and family there, and Paul Hogan, even he, fair play to him, he smiles and kind of claps and he joins in. But I would have loved to have seen Hogan get up and just knock Richard out again.
Yeah.
It would have been so good. Or he does something in some way. Or do what they do in Wedding Crashers, where he puts something in his drink and he's just shitting himself and puking. That would have been awesome. That's a
but
good
isn't
film.
it interesting? Later on, when we go to that in a minute, I'll bring that up in a second. Don't worry. Go on.
Don't tease me. Don't tease me.
No. I'll wait. Go on.
I might not even mention it. I don't know. I feel pressured. I've got to mention every
you
single
will,
bit
you
now.
will. If you don't, I'll bring it up. Yeah. Go on.
Oh, thanks, mate. But yeah, so they all clap and he's engaged. And the fallout on this is the fact that he's really pissed off. He's going to go for a walkabout, which involves him getting completely mullered. And again, he comes across the two crack whores in this alley. But it's two different crack whores this time who look equally as healthy and happy. And this pimp is with two more mates. And he punches him and knocks him out. And then he hasn't got his knife on him. I'd like to have seen what would have happened if he would have had his knife on him, would you?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Probably got some action.
Put it in, give it a twist.
Proper tear up. It would have been wicked, honestly. I'd have had a proper knife fight,
but we knew that he didn't have his knife on him because they foreshadowed it in the back of the limo, didn't it? Where he took it out.
It did.
Left it in there.
Yeah, they did. And obviously, Officer or Sergeant Powell turns up in his limousine, runs one of them over, and then as he runs away, he breaks the back off the, which is like a boomerang shape, conveniently, and he's down quite a tight alley. Could you throw that boomerang straight down that tight alley like that? I thought you needed a bit of curve on a boomerang, didn't you?
I was fully expecting Dundee to do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, as you say, funny you say that, Rav, because in my memory of watching this whether it was at the cinema or just after, I thought it was Dundee who did that, but it wasn't. But he'd already asked the driver if he was from a tribe, and he said no. And then after that, he said, you know, he asked him about the tribe thing, and he said, yeah, okay, I'm from so. So he obviously got his skills from his childhood, whatever. But yeah, I thought it was Dundee, but it wasn't. Looking back, I thought, crikey, I thought it was him.
What, did you really think it was Dundee who chucked it down there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because I don't know, just remember from my memory and from being a child watching the film. It was Dundee, but obviously it wasn't. Unless they changed the footage in the meantime.
They got all the actors back again to reenact this scene, confuse you. And they did.
Technology.
Yeah.
They would have spent more than
just
the
to fool
worth.
Paul. Yeah. Reviewing the film, he'll make a mistake. Yeah.
But yeah, I think when he asked about kind of what tribe he's from, I can't remember what he says now, but he's from kind of some like New York state or kind of suburb tribe, isn't he? That he's from.
Yeah.
And Yeah, Harlem Warlords. That's where he says he is.
Harlem, yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, good old Officer or Sergeant Powell, absolutely excellent. And so Mike Krasowski goes to find Mick, but he's gone. That's it. And he was going to go back to Australia. I was going to say New York, but he's in New York. And she chases after him. How she finds him, I don't know. What is she using? Tracking skills to try and find him or something?
Well, but going back to what. So he wasn't going back to Australia. He was going to go walkabout in America first, wasn't he?
Yes.
So he was going to explore America. He said, "I'll start with Central Station." But this was the thing, right? This is what I was going to mention before a minute ago, where her dad said she's obviously had a conversation with her dad, who seemed to be on board with Richard, but he said to her, she got out of the car, "I hope you know what you're doing." And you thought, well, what's that about? What is she doing? But she must have said to him, "Look, I don't love Richard." And her dad's probably gone, "You what? He works with you, works for me in the paper and stuff. He's rich. He's got all this, all this financial backing behind him. When you're going for somebody who lives in the middle of nowhere who just carries a knife on him, so he was questioning her, but obviously trusted her enough to go with her instincts and go after him. And as you say, yeah, she gets to see, who's the guy on the desk on the
concierge.
The concierge,
I mean, Jesus, he's got a fucking knife. Mick Dundee gave him his Rambo knife. He'd be the last person who wants a knife like that in his possession, surely.
Yeah.
She gave him his knife.
I thought Mick did as a leaving present.
I thought Mick just said to him, "Look after it for me."
Yeah.
I thought she said to look after it for him, and she handed it before she ran off.
Oh, maybe that was the boomerang. Maybe they re-edited this scene.
No, Rav, you're right. She did, because it was in the car. It was in the back of the.
Yes, the limo.
The back of the limo. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm having a look at the scene. I'll just have a look at the scene now, because he's saying that he went walkabout down by the subway. Yeah, I don't suppose you know where. And because the dad's in the car looking. And yeah, mind this for me. Yeah, you're right. God, I always thought that Mick Dundee did it. How weird is that? That is so bizarre.
He was never reconciled, was it? Was he with it? Because it was in the back of the limo.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then she's running after him, and that is. I remember having a tape back when we were at school. My mate who had all these films on VHS. I think he worked part time in Blockbusters. Used to get all the films, and I remember the music, having that on tape, the music from the last 5-10 minutes of the film.
I did enjoy the music.
It was great music, wasn't it, mate? It was just, and it built and it built. It was really nice. And
yeah, it's a great score of music.
It's
so good. It really, really is. Yeah, it still stands to this day. And I love the scene of on the subway. It's really busy. You've got such a diverse group of people on this subway, working class, business, and calling across, giving the messages. You've got this kind of black guy is he's got kind of like a cut down denim top on with a headband on, and then you've got this worker with a hard hat on, and they're all kind of like they wouldn't normally mix or communicate in normal life, but through this situation of passing messages on. And I love the last message of where he tells her tell him that I love him. It's such a nice message, and it's so funny that the way the message is carried across.
Helen, I love him. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love
From these guys, from Mike Krasowski to Crocodile Dundee, it's so funny.
Yeah, it was great.
I would, if I was in a situation like that, I would be an absolute arse and say, just because it's more. Well, yeah, that's just me though.
Tell him I love Richard.
Yes, I would do that.
That's so cruel.
Name any person. Let's as you said. Personally, it wouldn't work in the UK because we're all arseholes. No. We don't speak to each other. We prefer to keep to ourselves, especially in subway situations. We're not very friendly, as most of the world already knows.
So for text, they can't communicate.
Exactly, yeah. But if that were me, I would make up some BS story so I can watch his face just drop. Masochism. That's it.
If it was me or my luck, the message will be passed to the wrong person, and there'll be someone really fucking ugly also wearing a hat. And they'd be saying, "He loves you," and they'll be like, "No, no, not that one, not that one." But yeah, so the message is passed on, and he climbs across, and they hug, and in true '80s style, like they do in these films, they pause it on a very special, intimate moment, and it's just brilliant. And that is the end of Crocodile Dundee.
And that's the end of the film.
It is.
Like,
it's
that's
great.
the end of the film. It's just, yeah. I'd forgotten it ended there. I thought it would go into, because I've seen C2, CD2, Crocodile Dundee 2. So I know how it's obviously coming up. No, I'd forgotten that's where it ended.
Yeah, it's brilliant though, isn't it? Because you're kind of left. Did
You're
they
left.
get together? Did they kind of carry on their relationship, or what happened?
Yeah.
And
At that point, you walk out of the cinema looking at the bill for the next film, and you're going, Teen Wolf 2. I'll just pop back in for a while.
oh man, how good is that though? That is awesome, isn't it?
Mm.
If you can't see that, yeah, Stand By Me, that's on.
Yeah.
Jumping Jack Flash, that's on.
Stand By Me and some popcorn. I mean,
oh, it's so good. Even now, the Three Amigos still so good. But yeah, I know what you mean. I would have just been in and out of the cinema all day. It would have just been brilliant. But yeah, so I mean, I really, really like this film. I've seen it so many times, and it was so nice to actually review it. And I'm surprised we haven't. It's been on TV so many times, and it is a classic film with a really nice story behind it. With Paul Hogan, who's just he comes across as a really likable character. But I mean, best bits, worst bits. I mean, I'll start with the lovely silky voice of Rav. I mean, what would you score this in your best bits, worst bits, and would you recommend this to anyone?
You're too kind. I would score out of 5 a 2.5, 3.
Oh,
it is ultimately it's a romance movie. There's nothing other than just two people, both one out of their depth in one location, and the other one, and in the latter half of the movie, the other person out of their depth in another location. And it is just a romance movie of them two coming together and finding out their differences, opposites attract, etc., etc. But I was expecting a little bit more. I mean, it's one of those movies where if it's on, you'll put it on the background and then do something else. I wouldn't sit there and religiously watch. But the only thing with Crocodile Dundee films, and again, films based in the 80s, is it has a cult following. It has this weird aura around it whereby you know the movie before you've actually watched it, because of all the pop culture references that you'd have nowadays, like, you call that a knife, this is a knife, and just things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think all films. I think there's a lot of the films in the 80s have a cult following. Like, as you say, like this, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, probably Star Wars, Back to the Future, all that. But not all of them do. But
no, you're right.
There is that, like, I think regardless of cult following, I think anyone can probably quote an awful lot of films or things out of films that they may not have seen. Yeah, I'm sure there's films that I've not seen that I can quote from. But yeah,
it's more that the fact that this was the protagonist was from a different country. That's why, because it's the first glimpse that, as you said earlier, it's like, is this what Australians are like? Is this how they greet people? It's more the lines of that.
So is there any bits you don't like in this film? Any kind of worst bits?
I was expecting a lot more when they're out in the backcountry in the bush. I was expecting a bit more from the Aboriginals. That scene, I was expecting a bit more from that scene. Then it was almost like it was brushed over. As he was raised by Aborigines, and then threatened there, but that was it. I was like, oh, okay. Is there more to this? Is something else going to happen?
Yeah, because Nev appeared, didn't he? Nev was there for a minute or so, and he was gone.
Yeah, and I like that kind of side of. I think what they do well is and I kind of remember this when I first watched it, and I always kind of get that nostalgic feeling of, especially when they're talking to Nev, and it's like a piss take, and he does it so well. Of when she's going to take a picture, he goes, "No, you can't do that." He goes, "What? Oh yeah, that's right, 'cause it takes your spirit away." He goes, "No, you got the lens cap on," and it's just stupid, simple humour, which kind of diffuses a situation really fast. And I think
humour.
The first thing I noticed in that when Nev, and I've not seen this one, I don't remember seeing it before, but Nev turns up. The first thing I noticed, right, he's all done out in his Aboriginal regalia. He's got a fucking gold, silver wristwatch on. You know?
Yeah, he's got a digital watch and wearing jeans.
Digital watch, and and Mick's trying to make out that he's seen his way in the dark and can make it through.
Yeah, he senses his way and he bumps into a tree.
He's all you hear is just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
But no, that's quality. That just makes it even funnier.
Yeah, I like it. Paul, what about yourself, mate?
So out of 5, it's a difficult one. I reckon I give it a 4, in as much as nostalgia. And it's easy watching. As Rav says, you can watch it whilst doing something else. It's easy watching. You can pick it up, drop it, and you don't miss a lot. But when you do watch it, and I did yesterday, watched it again, watched the whole thing. There's an awful lot to take in. So I reckon I'll probably give it a 4. Best bit, the best bit, Stu. It's the punch.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's got to be, and it's just I had to rewind it several times, and I know we've WhatsApped each other with that video for ages, but I still had to watch it on the big screen, like punch, punch, punch. Worst bit, I would say, and this is not a criticism of the filmmakers or anything like that, but whenever you film in somewhere as busy as, I know it was New York, but like in Chicago or wherever, you get the unfortunate thing where you have, you've got your cast, you've got your extras, but then you've got the unaccountables behind, right? And when they're doing the New York scenes, there's a bunch of people just stood there, just staring at the camera and the crew. And that, for me, that always detracts from the action, because I'm too busy watching the people in awe, watching what's going on.
Yeah, I like that as well.
and I not only that, but when you watch extras, I love watching extras, not the Ricky Gervais still, although I do like that, but I love watching extras respond to each other, because you'll get people in a restaurant, you get the actors in the front, in close up, and you'll have a couple behind them who are the extras, and both of them are nodding at each other. Right?
Yeah.
And all they do is fucking nod.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just watching people behind,
What kind of conversation do you have where both people are nodded for that amount of time?
I know, but you think the director would say, or like or the scriptwriter would say, right, just here's your script, right? We're writing you an extra bit of script, right? You say this, you respond to that. Just to make it look good, because even the best flicks we've seen, the best films that are out there, you look in the background, and I'm always looking behind the what's going on in the foreground. Every fucker's nodding at each other.
It's so good.
Or just like winking, and then everyone's nodding, and it's just look out for it. It's there, and it just anyway. Mate. So these people in the background, when they just stood like in awe, that just worst bit. Sorry.
No, fair play. I'd give it. I think it's so difficult not to lean on the side of nostalgia and up the score when you think about the other films we've done that are so good, that I've really enjoyed, that I've given really high scores to. So it's hard, but I think I'd probably give this a 3 out of 5. It's a film I really enjoy, and again, it's a film I've seen so many times, but I wouldn't stop what I'm doing, as you guys rightly said, to watch this film, because you know what's going to happen. I may in the second one because I haven't seen it for a while, but the best bits, again, the punch is so good. I think all the punches are just awesome. The noise is like an express train. It's great. And The worst bits, again, I think I'd agree with Rav. I think because Australia were so mysterious and such a beautiful country, and they filmed it in I think it was the Kakadu National Park, which is absolutely amazing. I'd like to see more of that, and more of the wildlife, the things that Australia have got to offer that I'd be terrified of. I mean, walking through the bush, I'd be a bundle of nerves with spiders, with snakes, we've got the most dangerous animals that can kill you in that country, and I think they could have done a bit more with that, especially for the Western world, who, especially back in the 80s, we weren't privy to all of those things. It would have been a good opportunity to kind of showcase that, but it doesn't detract from it being a really good, entertaining film. I find Paul Hogan is a very likable character. His humour is just very gentle, easy to follow humour. I like that. I think he comes across as a nice guy. Whether he is or not, I don't know, but he gives that persona very well on the screen. But yeah, so that's Crocodile Dundee, and I'd recommend this film to anyone who hasn't seen it. I think it has dated, hasn't it? That's where it may suffer to younger audiences, I think.
It has. I'm not sure you do it again. They could do it again, obviously, because of the information that's out there. Yeah. I don't know. But watch it. It's a great film. It's on Netflix till the end of the month.
Yeah, definitely. I second that. And for those who don't know, this will be uploaded also on our YouTube channel, The Film Reel Cast. Go on to that. There are so many other reviews. Not only do we upload all of these podcasts, we've got The Shield, Cobra Kai Season 1, 2, 3, and we've got Loki, Winter Soldier, and WandaVision. There's so much. So go to YouTube, Film Reel Cast, and as well as watching those videos, you can just chill out and listen to those as well. And we're on iTunes and on Android. Subscribe and leave feedback. But we don't know what we're doing next, do we? We've not got Neil, we've not got James. So again, we'll be kind of doing what Wally or doing what Nev does, is walking around in the dark, sensing our next film, and hopefully we'll come up with something.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But I have seen, I went to the cinema and I did see what film. Oh my God, I saw, what's this, the new film out? I saw it twice at the weekend. Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that twice. Really enjoyed it. The baddie is the strangest baddie that you get compared to other baddies that we used to. But that aside, I thought it was a really entertaining film. I mean, it's got, it's James Gunn who did it, isn't it?
Yes.
Don't know.
Yeah, and it's got James Gunn and Guardians all over it with a soundtrack with the humour. I think it's a real winner. As from my own point of view, which is worth absolutely nothing, I think it's one of the best DC films in their universe that they've done so far. I think it works really well. So if you've not seen that, it's got a real Guardians twist to it, and so I totally recommend that. But we'll be back next week. Hopefully, Rav, you'll be joining us. Paul, I hope so as well. James and Neil. And tweet us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. And just let us know if there's any films you want us to review. But thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. Take care. And we'll be back next week. And bye-bye.